People love it when you eat on podcasts. When you're in your car, I'm not hearing you, Adam. Hold on. Oh yeah, that's. Welcome to Still Untitled, the Adam Savage Project. I am Will.
I'm Adam.
I'm Norm.
And I'm Frank.
Welcome, Frank.
Welcome back, Frank.
Again.
Frank Ippolito, guest podcaster.
And host, or semi-host, co-host of Creature Geek.
Yeah.
On Fridays this fall on Tested.com.
Every other Friday.
Every other Friday.
Yeah.
Alternate Fridays with Len Peralta.
With, Demetrio.
The affable Len
We found
Peralta.
out that Demetrio's
He's
actually
ludicrously affable. I had breakfast with him in Cleveland. Yes.
Woo!
Yeah. Cleveland is a beautiful little city.
Yeah.
I have lots of love for Cleveland.
I grew up in Cleveland.
It's a real
I love
city.
it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, there are a lot of great food and
Amazing
great
food.
stores, and craftspeople have moved into Cleveland. Cost of living is very low. And what you end up with is a Midwestern city that is very urbane and very familiar to a coastal attached person like me, like myself. I felt very at home in Cleveland.
It's on the Ohio River, right?
No, it's on Lake Erie.
Lake Erie.
Oh, it's even better. It definitely feels like a coastal city. And one of the greats.
Like right across the lake is Canada.
Canada.
Yeah.
Canada.
It was very bizarre to be in. We were in one Canadian city, Ontario, where we were south of Detroit.
Yeah, that happens.
Really?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Wow.
There's part of Canada is south of Detroit.
It's like one of those things, geographically, like Reno is west of LA.
San Francisco is on the same latitude
What?
as Boston.
That is totally bizarre to me.
Yeah,
Because they don't have anything close to the same weather.
No, but it's because we get the cold coming down. They get the cold from everywhere, it seems like.
Bets you can win at bars.
Or maybe it's Boston is on the same latitude as Rome.
What?
What?
we're just saying things now.
You're
We're just saying
making
things.
sounds with your mouth.
Melbourne is on the same latitude as London.
Keep on going.
Diagonal
Words.
latitude.
Yeah.
Get that segue.
all right.
Okay.
There is none.
No, there's no segue
No.
from here. You know what's happening in England right now? They just finished shooting The Force Awakens.
I keep wanting to say The Force Unleashed.
That
Why
was
do
a
I want to
video
say
game.
that?
Because Will said it first and because it's a video game.
It is a video game.
game.
Okay, The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens.
Force Awakens.
So we've talked about this on the other podcast, but new stuff has come to light.
And we haven't heard Adam's opinion.
Yes.
It's true.
have-
So we've seen the trailer,
Yes, the teaser.
the teaser.
It's what, like 8 shots? I
No,
think?
about so. And can we say that there's a lot of bullshit with teasers, trailers, teasers for teasers. Here's 1 3-second vine of the teaser trailer that will be unveiled tomorrow on
You're saying they're
Entertainment
milking
Tonight.
it?
It's all part of a. It's all part. Hey, look,
Marketing.
nobody could possibly do be as egregious as Tron was, releasing a minute of footage every year for 3 years at Comic-Con.
Oh my goodness. Well, to be fair, the first one was before the movie was greenlit, just to gauge the fan audience.
Right.
Reaction.
Right. So
I love Tron.
look, the fact is we've been paying deep attention in many of our different ways to the production that's been going on in London. It's very exciting that Abrams is rebooting the franchise because he's already proved he can do that with the other great science fiction franchise of the 20th century, Star Trek.
He already made the new Star Wars.
I love Star Trek. I love it. And he is exactly the right person to do it, having been so deeply inculcated with that Spielberg, Lucas, the early 80s aesthetic of theirs.
Yeah, he made a fan film, Super 8.
Super 8 is absolutely, I mean, people are like, oh, he's copying Spielberg. Yeah, sure.
That's fine.
Better than anybody else could.
Yeah.
In terms of love letters to directors that
Yeah.
were your idols, that is so much better than for example, Bryan Singer, Superman Returns being a love letter to Richard Donner. That was just...
Did Richard Donner really need love letters?
I'm
Or
tired
yes.
of reboots. Can we stop
Interstellar
rebooting
being, or
Superman
Interstellar
and
being a
Spider-Man?
love letter to 2001.
Yeah.
Interstellar.
Certainly was.
yeah.
I agree, but I don't think the two movies are even in the same category.
No, they're different
How many
movies,
times does he do the go darkly into the night? Do not go softly.
3 times.
No, I think it was 5. because it's on the plaque at
Whatever
the
it
end.
was, however many, whatever degree to which n is more than one, that's that much too many.
I love Michael Caine, but damn.
It's still a Gatorade commercial or a Nike commercial or one of those.
But
Wait, when are you going to reproduce your spacesuit from Interstellar?
Well, I've got all the reference. I've been building reference material for weeks now.
That helmet.
Which one? The black one?
Oh, it has to be the close one.
The black one at the end, the one that's on.
Oh no, it's the main one that you see. So the one that Matt Damon wears is pretty much the same as the one that
a little bigger, a little clunkier.
right.
Matt
But I mean,
Damon's a
they're
little
all
bigger.
effectively on similar design features, and I like it. I like the waffle fabric. I like the backpack, the hard
harness.
resin parts that are on the suspenders.
The glass is right here.
Yeah, it's very, very close.
right up on their
so
face.
they must have ADR'd all their dialogue because they had to have had lots of fans in those helmets. But the spacesuits, I thought they looked darn good. They
liked
felt exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But Star
serious
Wars.
Back to-
business here,
So
guys.
besides all the
Stars
bullshit
is-
about trailers and teasers and teasers of teasers, I was glad they released some footage. And some of the stuff we saw I thought was pretty interesting. I thought he showed the first clip, which is of his name John Boyega, is the black
From,
actor that you see in a stormtrooper costume.
Yes.
So right there, he's making a totally clear statement.
Spaceballs Part 2.
I'm going to take Star Wars to a place you didn't expect.
Yeah.
And then almost that next shot of the girl on the
found shit.
what's that?
And Coleman all day.
But the second shot, it's just the girl on that
The second
big
shot's the
On
the ball
popsicle.
droid.
She's on a popsicle.
oh, the ball droid. She's on a popsicle,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's making the sounds
Of Luke
that
Speeder.
all the vehicles that sound that was so ingrained into us from the prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3. And I thought that was one of my favorite parts. The sound design of the prequels is one of my favorite parts. Admittedly, a low bar.
The way her speeder jumps into action calls back, and because they can perfect a speeder accelerating with CG now, but it calls back to the way that they composited the animation where Luke Speeder jumps.
Well, but Luke's speeder was like a Pinto chassis with a
yeah.
fiberglass top on that they painted the Pinto out, right? It was a truck.
No. The land speeder is totally a custom built job.
Okay, but I thought it was a actual car chassis.
It might have been built on a car chassis, a Pinto or a Volkswagen
So it
or
could drive
something like
around.
that.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I don't know, but I don't off the top of my head. I remember because I heard that they drove it around Van Nuys after they first completed it.
awesome.
I know. Wouldn't that be
Awesome.
Everyone's like, boy, that looks ludicrous.
Walk us through your thought process as
Okay,
you're
so what I think when I see that trailer is I think he says, we're going to go someplace you don't expect, which is great. Of course we want that. But we're going to keep to the conventions that make you feel comfortable in this space, the whoop, 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 whoop of the sounds of things.
And they did it for both people who like the original trilogy and the prequels.
Sure.
Because why would you have that
You
market?
can't. You don't want to
Yeah.
alienate people who already like part of the franchise, even if some of us think that episodes 1, 2, and 3. Well, sorry, episodes 6, 1, 2, and 3 are all terrible, but that's fine.
okay, and then the next. What are the other shots I call out? Because you didn't rewatch it just now.
The seeing the Falcon, seeing the Millennium Falcon again. Now, here's something he's doing that you haven't seen, which is acrobatics in the atmosphere of a planet. It looks like Tatooine, but shots that are fully updated. Right. So again, it's that he's taking you old school and showing you new school. And people are making all sorts of assumptions, which I find hilarious based on however many shots, 6,
8,
7,
I think.
8 shots,
Yeah.
right? People are like, oh, it's going to be terrible. It's like, you're an idiot.
There's no way you can tell at this
you
point.
can tell.
It's 8 completely out of context
Is
shots.
the
Like, how could,
story good?
we don't know.
We don't know.
When we saw 8 shots of episode 1, it looked, that first teaser trailer looked amazing. It had good
Totally.
music. The robots come down. It looked
100%.
really good.
You can't tell anything.
Did you see the image stabilized version of that Falcon shot?
I did. I watched it extensively, and I really enjoyed it.
It's not, the Falcon's not being acrobatic in that atmosphere. It's just swooping down above the sand.
Right.
It's the
It's the
camera,
camera
that's doing
that's-
all sorts of mad gymnastics.
Even more than that, I like the article about how fast the TIE fighters and the Falcons are going and how fast the blaster bolts go. like somebody figured out all of those angles, and that it's kind of possible that they are going that speed.
It is, and actually coming up this year in Mythbusters, which will start airing on January 10th at 9 p.m. on Saturday nights.
Plug.
Yes, a plug. We have a Star Wars episode coming up where we actually tackled the speed of blaster bolts.
Because they move way slower than light.
They way slower than light, and
They're like the speed of a tank round,
I
right?
can't quite remember the actual speed, but we played around with them. They're a lot slower than tank rounds, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But
Interesting.
so I think that look, all we can do is we can look at Abrams' previous work and see that he loves this early 80s Spielberg, Lucas aesthetic and storytelling device. He's brought in Larry Kasdan to write that script.
Mm-hmm.
So again, he's going back to the roots of Star Wars, and he's also going to add in new stuff that's going to freshen it up. And I don't think there's any director right now who is better qualified than J.J. Abrams to do all of the above.
He has an amazing history of coming into existing franchises and making them his own while not losing the essence. Like if you look what he did with Mission Impossible 3, which we haven't talked about.
Right.
I mean,
fantastic.
it is a phenomenal film. And while I like the fourth one better,
Yeah.
Which was the one in Abu
don't like the
Dhabi?
first
that was
the fourth
the fourth one. That was the Brad Bird one, which is pretty amazing.
Brad Bird one, I think, is my favorite of the whole franchise.
But up until the Brad Bird one, that was
Absolutely.
definitely my favorite of the
I
franchise.
totally agree. Right. He did the one with Kerry Russell.
It was so, and Philip Seymour Hoffman,
Right.
as
And
the
so-
best villain of
Agreed.
yeah.
Terrifying villain. So, I mean, I have been a fan of Abrams since Felicity.
Yeah.
And I'll admit I've watched most of Felicity.
And
which is a
Alias?
terrific show. Alias and Lost.
Yeah.
Actually, I reached out to Damon Lindelof and said, if they need an R2D2, I've got one.
They got guys working
They
on
didn't
that
call
from
me.
the club.
I don't know why they didn't call me.
I had friends that were working in the creature shop that I knew were working on there, and I emailed them and said, I have an Akbar mold, it's Adam's mold, and I didn't hear back.
I also actually reached out and through other channels and said, I might have the best Akbar master left. Right? It's the mold you've got might be the best Akbar casting that there is right now, because the one at the ranch is kind of beat up.
Yeah, I saw it just a couple weeks ago.
And nobody can resculpt that. Phil's original sculpt is the best and most personality-laden sculpt.
It's because Phil's probably sculpted it with like the backside of a popsicle stick. Like it's just so loose, and you can't replicate those errors.
But we're getting away from the thing.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams, and
Yeah.
a lot of people watch Star Trek 2009 and also Inner Darkness, and there are scenes in both where you can say that he really wanted to make Star Wars, and he was given the Star Trek franchise, and it's great that he got a lot of that maybe out of his system, so he challenges himself. Like, for example, in Star Trek Inner Darkness, there's a great chase scene when they're in a small shuttle pod, and it's being chased by a Klingon bird of prey, and that feels very Star Wars-like, and the banter that's going on during that scene. And so it's great that he did that, so that he's gone through the thought process over 2 movies now without the burden of it being then having to do Star Wars without anything before.
So hold on, you're saying he's getting called up to the big leagues now?
Well, I think
I don't think that he has any control over what he puts in and how he puts it in. I mean, he's just bottle raised on these movies, and he's going to put in the stuff that he likes. And he's proven time and again that what he likes is really, really fun to watch. I will say also the idea that Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford are in this one makes me more excited than I've been for any movie, let alone a franchise reboot, in a decade.
Did you read the interview with Mark Hamill about he didn't think that they were going to do it? They're all given outs. If one of the 3 couldn't do it, none of them were going to be in it. And he thought Harrison was going to be the one.
It seemed like he expected Harrison to.
So here's my hope. Here's my secret hope, is that Han Solo is a major part of this movie. Han Solo taught me, from a storytelling standpoint, that in a movie as ridiculous as Star Wars, and Star Wars is a ridiculous movie, right? It's ludicrous. It's a space opera. You need someone within the film making fun of the movie that you're watching, so that you're brought along.
That was the thing that the prequels lacked.
It is.
There was no self-awareness.
There was no self-awareness. Han Solo is the one going, can you believe all this shit? This is, okay, woo.
I'm just the guy you picked up at the bar to ferry you to some other place.
And I'll give you another example along similar lines is Starship Troopers, whose source material is also totally ludicrous. And yet what Verhoeven does is, instead of having anyone in the movie make fun of the movie, the movie
newscast?
itself makes fun of itself.
Would you like to know
little
more?
Commercials and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Full of commercials and the over-the-top acting and the over-the-top dialogue. It's actually probably one of the most, faithful adaptations from source material in terms of science fiction. And the movie is almost has this extra layer of comedy because you get to understand how
it's dark.
Yeah.
It's dark satire.
And yet it's also a great movie. So I like the idea that we go back, we see Han Solo again 30 years later. I mean, he is he's the rogue's rogue, man.
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite characters in film.
Is Han Solo 30 years later fat on the couch? I mean, it looks like a different
Harrison Ford isn't fat on the couch.
Well,
I also think Mark Hamill's beard looks great. I think they're going for, I don't know what state the universe is when we get there.
But it has to be bad or it wouldn't be interesting.
And and I know that Damon Lindelof doesn't have anything to do with this movie, but he did say, as soon as you're spending $200 million in a movie, the fate of the universe has to be hanging in the balance. So clearly, we're probably meeting them when they're all old and don't want to be galvanized, and you get to watch these three characters
Like reluctantly get brought back into it.
And I also disagree with the leaked email from Sony that Adam Driver is a terrible choice to put in the Star Wars film.
God, no.
I think Adam Driver is a fantastic choice. He's a really dark and weird actor, and I think it's that kind of thing that's going to make you be like, oh, this is totally different. This isn't necessarily just a villainous villain chewing the scenery. This is someone who's going to help you understand the other side of the villainy and make it more complex.
And from, at least from his work on Girls, it seems like he's completely fearless.
I totally would agree.
Which I think is super important because like this is the kind of like those kinds of roles are the ones that if you do badly could come off really silly and goofy or leaden and boring.
Yeah.
And if he really leans into it hard and lets himself go, who knows what'll happen? It could be amazing.
The other thing that we've been following is the construction of the full-size Millennium Falcon out there. Is it at Elstree or at Pinewood?
It's Pinewood.
Pinewood, right. And seeing the flyovers of that, I mean, my favorite ship in the whole world, I seriously considered flying to London and trying to get a visit to the set just to see it.
Outside the gates.
Oh! But Abrams has made it clear he is going practical as much as possible. Give the actors real environments to work in, but also, and I'm not even positive that means he's going to do motion control ship filming and stuff. It's probably hard to justify the expense of MoCo rigs given how inexpensive CG is. And frankly, I'm not sure you'd see the difference in the hands of a great director. But the idea that we'd be seeing practical effects, practical droids, actors in real environments really excites me.
Well, you say that about the ships, but in Interstellar, they built a lot of those space
The shuttles, yeah.
They did.
in the shuttle, so they could film it because there's a lot of things that you get in filming it and lighting it in real life that you don't get out of the CG. So I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a lot more practical than we think we're going to see.
If there was a slow-moving vehicle like the Death Star, then I absolutely believe that's a practical prop. But when we're talking about fast-moving, maybe that's... Now, as someone who worked in the art department for a Star Wars movie before, what did you think of the art design for the vehicles, the helmets, the guns, the uniforms?
Look, the Star Wars franchise has this long history of having great designers and then not quite giving them the credit they deserve. I mean, Ralph McQuarrie is the production designer of Star Wars, but he's not credited as. He's more like the concept designer,
artist,
right? And Doug Chiang also, his paintings are what drove, and his design and direction is what drove the prequels. And he has an incredible eye. I think the design of most of what goes on in the prequels is gorgeous. I think that
those silver ships are unbelievable.
Absolutely, the Queen ship, and we built one of those practically.
Really?
We built a practical 12-foot long Queen ship.
The B-wing looking one? Wow.
Yeah, we were literally like heat stretching Mylar onto these giant fiberglass sections.
Really?
It was a hell of a job.
Even like the Naboo starfighters, the kind of bulbous curved ones.
Yeah.
The Trade Federation ships are really cool looking.
I love the Trade Federation ships.
I was just at the archives a couple weeks ago, and I saw one of those, those droids that are like a ball and they unfold and they have the force field around them.
Yeah. The Droidicus.
Oh yeah, Droidicus. Yeah. They built one full.
Paint jobs are amazing.
I'll tell you about that paint job with all the burnt metal look.
Yeah, like it's been rolling, it's been heating, and
yeah. So that paint job was designed by my friend Brian Gurnand, and Brian ran the model shop for Episode 2, and Brian is the whole package. Hi, Brian. Brian is not only like a phenomenal job supervisor who does not like ever trickle his stress down or up but maintains it where he is and keeps things running smoothly. But he's also as good or better model maker than anybody he's working with. So when it came time to figure out that paint job, Brian is the one that went into a booth for 2 days and figured out the 9-step process of the clear coats over metallics to get that burnt look. And I agree with you.
Beautiful.
I was on site when they wheeled that out of the booth, and it was like, dude, that is magnificent. It's one of my favorite paint jobs I've ever seen.
Well, it
doesn't look possible, right? Like when you think about painting, you're like, I wouldn't have thought that one could do that.
I just assumed those were CG.
No. Well, sorry. Most of the time they were, but in order to give the CG guys the painting reference, they very frequently would even paint something full scale for lighting reference on set, so that you had something and you knew what it was supposed to look like in situ.
So the interesting thing to me about the fact that J.D. Abrams is doing this, he's saying he's committed to doing practical effects is where possible and where it makes sense.
Sorry about this. A B-12 bomber is starting up right outside the shop.
UPS is delivering 35 million packages today, which is their biggest shipment day ever, is what they said this morning.
35 billion?
Million in one day.
Remember, UPS spells oops.
We're recording this, 2 days before Christmas, 3 days before Christmas?
Oh, right. I still have some shopping to do.
Well, I know what you're doing tonight.
I already gave you your present.
But I like looking at what they can do. Well, looking at how technology for real world stuff, like even with off the shelf microcontrollers and the rise of all that stuff, the rise of accelerometers and cheap motors and all the stuff that's possible today that wasn't possible or was possible at great cost 20 years ago, 15 years ago when they started working on the prequels. Like I have to imagine the things you can do with practical effects today would look like magic to you guys 15 years ago, or maybe it's a budget.
Well, you end
difference.
up with certain specialists, and they certainly have them in England at Pine White and Elstree, who can do, over the years, some of the groundbreaking work that was not invented, but really sort of developed by people like Mark Satrakian, who was one of the first people to build algorithms so that you could control clusters of servos to behave in different ways depending upon the gesture you infuse them with.
Things like tentacles and stuff.
Okay.
You can now do animatronic stuff so inexpensively and simply that normally would have taken massive banks of controllers, and now servos have gotten smaller, gotten stronger. Rubbers have gotten lighter. The techniques people have had, you now have people that have been doing animatronics for 30 years.
It's like the Wallies, right?
Yeah.
The Wallies that Mike Senna and Mike McMasters made in their garages, while definitely the work of skilled craftsmen, cost a fraction of the millions of dollars that Imagineering spent to build one that would drive around Disneyland.
Yeah. So
And that's why the droid, the rolling ball droid, Mark Hamill also said that there is a real one on set.
yeah, I'm dubious about that. When he said it's a practical droid, I'm quite sure that there was one on set, but I don't think that clip we're looking at is a practical.
It looks like a
I agree with
Sphero
that.
with a thing on top.
Yeah, it did, but that's the one part that bugged me. But again,
Oh, I was gonna say I had heard that it's got an arm or something that controls it, and that arm gets painted out. So it is like practically,
No,
but it's still augmented by something to make.
That makes sense.
we talk about aesthetics a lot, and thematically, what I'm hoping for from the movie that it does return to some of its roots of it being like a space drama, space opera, and maybe like Space Samurai. Because Star Wars, a lot of that Japanese influence, Darth Vader's helmet, swords, honor, and a Jedi, and you lose that in the prequels.
you do.
And I hope that some of that's
I
brought
think
back.
you might be right. I think that, remember that Lucas almost rotoscoped some original World War II dogfight footage for the fights between the Falcon and X-Wings and the TIE fighters. I would expect Abrams to take that as a jumping off point to call back to give that old school feeling. And the idea, he's also showing the Millennium Falcon. He's saying this is going to be deeply connected to the Star Wars that you love.
But it's a little tarted up. Like the exhaust ports go across the whole back.
Hey,
it's
man.
definitely got some cool filigree stuff on the top that looks
Agreed.
new.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not
30
the
years.
Falcon. Maybe that's another Corellian cruiser.
It could be another.
be.
It's got to be the Falcon.
There's only
I'm
one
saying,
Falcon.
why would you assume John Boyega's a stormtrooper?
I don't think he's.
He might be a Jedi
No.
in a stormtrooper outfit.
I've plotted that movie that scene already. Like I think that
Norm's making the movie in his head.
Yes, I love doing this. From my study of teaser trailers, I find that because of the way post-production works and the way footage comes out from a shoot and how early, many times scenes from a teaser do come from a sequence, one part of the movie, not just all from one part. But I think that the Tatooine stuff shown in the teaser possibly connected, and I think that it is. He's going to be much like a callback to Luke and Han wearing the stormtrooper outfits.
I wondered.
And that look on his face, that look of like he's running away.
Yeah.
It reminds me so much of
It does.
of
Like
him.
when Han Solo turns the corner and sees the stormtroopers.
It also has this added benefit of sifting the racists out among the Star Wars fans because they get all upset about that.
Well, what if we're reading into all of this way too much, and these are just random clips? That's the editor's like, "Hey, this doesn't give away anything. Let's."
Oh,
go
I'm
plug
sure. You could
these
be totally
8
right.
clips in that don't give anything away.
Oh, I think that JJ.
So I think that they were carefully chosen,
Yeah.
and JJ he's absolutely doing what his job is. If you are JJ, there's a point at which the studio
Obeying Disney
you don't
marketing?
get that job without knowing that your job is gotta make a little something for everybody.
Yeah.
Make sure everyone who's ever been interested in Star Wars wants to come see your movie. Go in 8 shots.
But through the filter of J.J. Abrams,
Right.
which is I'm going to show you 3 sides of the mystery box.
There
You
was
gotta
no
pay
monster.
to see the other 5.
He didn't show a monster, which is a J.J. Abrams like core.
Let's also talk about the lightsaber. I don't mind a guard on the lightsaber.
So I read on the internet
Yeah.
that it's not a guard at all.
What is it?
That it's an exhaust.
that the dude who made that lightsaber is shitty at making lightsabers.
No, he's not a He's not a Jedi. He's like a Jedi hunter. I've read a bunch of stuff on the internet too. It's everywhere, like all over the internet.
So-
It's everybody's idea. And
Hilarious.
he's a Jedi hunter, and he's not good at making lightsabers, so it's an exhaust port, which is why it's kind of flickery.
Oh, nice. Nifty.
I just, as I was watching
That's
this,
even better.
I was thinking, what would this movie be if George Lucas was making it? And what would happen is at the end of Jedi, the Emperor and Vader both die at the same time. All of their midichlorians are released into
Shut up.
the ether.
No there's no such thing as midichlorians.
And then millions of
Shut
people
up.
around the galaxy start
Done.
becoming
I'm done.
little
I'm out.
baby
Wait,
Jedis.
Here's what I find fascinating, and I just want to point this out to the folks who are out on the web arguing in boards about what the various clips of the trailer means. We have clearly here 4 completely different ideas about what those shots mean and where they fit. And guess what? It doesn't matter one bit what we think or what we imagine because we have no freaking idea.
Yeah.
I will say, Frank and I are both party to certain pieces of information which we can't reveal because we know some folks,
We have friends.
We have friends and we don't want to
wish I had
betray their
friends.
confidence. But
I had friends once.
For the most part,
all of this stuff is on
it's
the
all
internet. It's all
speculation.
stuff that everything that I'm saying is stuff that I've read somewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
Like,
I think that,
internet.
we can talk about, it goes back to fandom and why people get so passionate about these things, especially when it comes to speculation and teasers for movies. It's because part of being a fan is having a vision in your head of how something you're passionate about can be realized.
Right.
And, we're not directors because we don't have the ability to realize it in film form and edit it and manage all of that. But when they see something that's different from what you realize, then you feel like something a little bit is lost. And I don't have no idea what that means.
I want a Rancor origin story.
Oh, I love the Rancor. That's a custom.
That's in The Force Unleashed,
I have all the reference in the universe from Phil.
Well,
You know what
he
the
built it as a human wearable costume.
Oh yeah, I took all the pictures at the archives.
The thing that Star Wars can take a little bit from Star Trek is, and back in the original days of Star Trek, they took solicits from fans, story ideas.
Wow.
And that's a good idea not to do it anymore.
Oh, you can't do that
But
anymore.
yeah, back in those days, send your letters in for story ideas. I'll
Luke
take
and
your
Han
spec
find
scripts.
themselves stranded in a cabin over the weekend.
Is that where they ended up? Is that where?
Oh, the storm's washed out the road. Looks like we're going to be here for a while.
Not going to get Harrison to sign off on that.
Cabin in the Woods 2?
I think this is a fine place to end this
Seems
podcast.
like a good one, yeah. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for coming by, Frank. If you would like
Talk
to
about Star Wars /Veg.
yeah.
Yep.
If you'd like to support the podcast, go to iTunes and write us a review. Like us on Facebook. Like us on YouTube.
And listen to Creature Geek also.
And listen to Creature Geek
Yes.
every other Friday for the next few weeks. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye, guys.